A few months ago, I posted a couple of videos about being raised by parents who were a part of the silent generation, and how in popular culture we talk a lot about the baby boomers, but we don't talk as much about the silent generation. And my parents were born in the early 1940s. My dad was born in 1940. My mom was born in 1944. And I talked a lot about sort of the problems with being raised by someone from the silent generation, which, as you can imagine from the name, has a lot to do with the silence, and also the just shoulder it and get on with it and don't complain and just get a job and collect your pension and, be grateful is kind of the vibe of the silent generation. But I wanted to, in light of our current political situation and having reflected on it for a couple months, I wanted to talk about some of the good things about being raised by parents of the silent generation. I want to talk specifically about my mom because my dad is a different case. But my mom, as a member of the silent generation, she is actually able to take on feedback and grow and change. I kind of feel like that this is something that silent generation folks can do a little bit better than baby boomers. My theory about this, and you can let me know in the comments what you think, my theory is that if you grow up in a time of great hardship and war, it sets you up better for growth and change and flexibility than growing up in a time of great abundance like the baby boomers did. Silent generation, as I've said before, they and their parents were coming out of the Great Depression and World War II. So it's just a very different mindset than baby boomers who grew up in the post-war period, which was a time of great abundance and economic prosperity. I want to give you just a few examples of the ways that my mom was able to take on feedback and grow and change. One that comes to mind is, so my mom married my dad. My mom is Dutch heritage. She's very, very, very white, pale woman with light brown hair and blue eyes. And my dad is Puerto Rican, so he's Afro-Caribbean, and he's very clearly an Afro-Caribbean man. He's a black man of Puerto Rican heritage. And they got married in the 70s when it was honestly just barely legal for them to be married in all of the states. Like loving, that decision came down in the early 70s. So she was very much progressive on racial issues. I think that was one of the reasons that she was attracted to my dad. She was interested in him as being different from her. But that doesn't mean, and this is the conversation that we're currently having as a country and hopefully will continue to have under the current administration, she definitely still had a lot of internalized racism. That's just the reality. So she would sometimes, when I was a teenager, say some things that were racist, like usually positive stereotypes. I think she would say things about, Asians being good at math or something like that. And we would have to say, Mom, you can't say that. You can't say that, Mom. And she would sort of be like, oh, okay. Can you imagine a baby boomer parent just being like, oh, okay. And she wouldn't say it anymore. Another time that I remember more recently is that all through my whole life, my mom has been deeply, as a silent generation person, deeply worried about my involvement in the arts. She is and has always been concerned by being interested in acting and playing music. Like she's worried about that shit. And it's understandable because she's silent generation. She believes in just banking that money and getting your pension and just working hard and just nose to the grindstone. But after I got divorced the first time, I started my band and was just like really on fire playing shows. Because it was an outlet for me, it was something to do, it was a way for me to focus my anger. It's really helpful when you're coming out of a relationship with a narcissist. Like you're never going to get closure from them. They're never going to say they're sorry. They're never going to admit what they did. In the case of my ex, he never, ever, 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 ever admitted anything. And I asked him over and over again. And instead he hid things, and he did that whole song and dance. And you're never going to get any closure. So I was just singing songs about it because I didn't have anything else to do. And I was so angry. I was so mad. And what was fantastic about it is starting a band is really scary and intimidating. But I was so angry that I forgot to be intimidated and scared. And so I just did it. And then by the time the anger faded and I started being intimidated and scared again, I already had a band. So, it was sort of already out there. But my mom took me out I think I took my mom out to a play for her birthday, and we met for dinner in San Francisco before the play. And I was talking about playing out with the band. She asked what was new with me, and I told her that I had been playing with the band, and she did the thing that she always did when I talked about anything that I was doing artistically. She kind of made a worried face, and she was like, oh, really? Are you sure? Kind of did that thing. And up until that point in my life, I was kind of people-pleasing, kind of affable, and I was willing to take on her point of view, and I would sort of like try to make excuses for it. But in this time period, I had kind of found my voice, and I wasn't doing that anymore. And I said, Mom, when I was with my ex, I was scared to play music, and I was intimidated by it, and I kind of lost that artistic spark, and I was living through him, I think, and I don't want to do that anymore. And this band is my way to not do that anymore. I don't want to live through other people. I don't want to live through the men that I'm dating. I want to have my own voice. And she felt that. She absorbed that. She never said anything else about the band, except positive praise. Never said anything else. Never expressed any worry. Nothing but support. And the last thing I want to say about the good things about being raised by a parent of the silent generation is that when crisis comes, your denial is not really there. Like, if you're raised by parents of the silent generation, you are not paralyzed by unfolding crises. And you are not in denial about them. You have been given the gift of clarity and preparedness for global crises. So, as much as I talk shit about my mom in the last videos for hoarding, guess what I'm doing? Guess what I have right now? I got a lot of pantry staples, y'all. I have prepped. So say what you will about being raised by the silent generation. We are fucking ready. You want to know why Gen X are the way that we are? Those of us who were raised by silent generation parents? I mean, we're ready. We're ready.